This is Dr. Lawrence Jones with Farm Institute with a milk market tidbit on February 23 federal milk marketing order reports that just came out this week. And I wanted to get these to you just as soon as I possibly could here. And I am recording this from Playa del Carmen in Mexico, so I apologize for any of the background noise here. So the statistical uniform prices were still reasonably strong, some in the 18s, but Florida was 25.12. The lowest one was probably Minnesota, Wisconsin at 1809, and everybody else in that generally high 19, low 20 kind of numbers. And if we look at how it changed, now we always have to think about the underlying factors. So Class 1 came down $1.63, Class 3 came down $1.65, Class 4 came down a little less at $1.15, and then here are the actual numbers. But overall, everybody was down, just about $1 and a half per hundredweight. Again, some of the highest would be Minnesota, Wisconsin, because again, they're very, very high Class 3. And some of the other ones, like the Northeast, which is a kind of a blend, is $1.11. Now, one of the things I always like to look at is what is the change in daily production. This always gives me kind of a gauge as to what's going on for the milk production report coming out next week. And we see a couple of things that kind of stand out. California is up 10%. Texas, New Mexico was down a little bit. But if I kind of look overall, we got about a 2% change in the Northwest. We got about a little over 2% change in the midsection, about a 2% change in the Northeast, and a little bit differences around there. And if we look at kind of the Class 4 utilization, this gives us an idea of what happened with depooling. So it would suggest that Texas, New Mexico actually did a bit more depooling because their utilization in Class 4 went down, whereas California probably did a little bit less depooling of Class 4. Because remember, everybody was depooling Class 4 last month. So again, when we look at this, if we weight it overall, it comes up to about 2.7% increase in milk in February versus January, but I think the real number is probably going to be closer to 2%. And again, because this is not really less milk in Texas, New Mexico, it's just that they depooled a little bit more. And again, in California, it's not that they were way up in milk, it's that they depooled a little bit less. But interesting, Class 1 utilization is cannot be depooled, and its volume went down about 1.2%. So in fact, we had a little bit less Class 1. Now if we look at the components, every federal order reports a fat percent. Again, the Northwest is always the winner at 4.4. Overall, we're about 4.18. Very strong components, and again, the way that components have changed over the last 10 years is pretty amazing. Florida is at 3.78. A whole lot of these are at 4. And if we look at it put together with the yield, it would suggest that the yield of fat was actually about 3% up. So we're going to have more cream in the market for February than we did for January on a per day basis. And then the protein numbers, only a few of the federal orders report these. Again, the Northwest is very strong at 343. Turns out the Northeast is the low at 320, and we got a 339 down here in Texas, New Mexico. All right, so that's kind of a summary of the federal milk marketing orders. This next week is going to be a busy week. We've got a milk production report on Monday, global dairy trade auction on Tuesday, the third national dairy sales report on Wednesday, and then the cold storage report on Thursday.